This is my 1993 Cadillac Allante. It is powered by a 4.6-liter North Star engine producing 295 horsepower and 290 foot-pounds of torque. Back in the late 80s, GM commissioned the design firm Pininfarina to produce a car that would compete with the likes of the Mercedes SL and Jaguar XJS. Dubbed the world's longest assembly line, what came out was this futuristic-looking luxury roadster that was built in Italy in the same factory as the Ferrari Testarossa and Alfa Romeo Spiders, then flown in 747s to Detroit, where final assembly would take place. Although Cadillac only produced just over 21,000 of these vehicles, it has created a cult-like following, and unlike my version, most of them are in pristine condition. Now I know what you guys are thinking. This is undoubtedly a car not for my generation. And you would be right. This car was actually a failure. Back in 1993, this car was too expensive to make. And at the cost of $50,000 in the early 90s, it was extremely expensive to buy. In today's dollars, that's well over $100 grand. $100 grand! Woo! Now, it's got a pretty decent amount of power, right? If you need to get onto an on-ramp, it's gonna go. There is no shortage of power in this car. You know, when it came out back in the early 90s, that's, almost 300 horsepower is not too bad. It also has all the creature comforts you could possibly want. So it's got AC, it's got heat, it's got electric windows, it's got electric seats. The seats actually have two memories, which is kind of cool for two different drivers, because most likely your lady would probably be driving this car as well. It has a CD player, it has a cassette player, it has miles per gallon, it has a lot of stuff that a lot of cars nowadays have. How much gas you used in the last tank, how much you have left in the tank, automatic climate control. Like, it's got some good stuff, man. The seats are made by Lear. Yes, that Lear, the people that make the private jets. The seats from the previous years of this car were actually made by Recaro, which is kind of rad. Like, honestly, in here, when you're sitting, it's a really great car to drive. I took a 650-mile trip back from Florida with it, and aside from the brakes almost killing me, the ride itself is really comfortable for long trips. So yeah, when you got in this car in the early 90s to buy, and you had all of this stuff, and you had the money, you were gonna fork it over for sure. Now, there's quite a bit of downsides to buying a car like this from the early 90s, right? It is 30 years old, so there's a lot of issues with it. Parts are really hard to come by, and when you do find the part, they're pretty expensive. This particular car leaks like crazy. We had a rainstorm last week, and when I got back in the car, there was at least a gallon of water in the passenger seat. So, all the seals are pretty much shot on this thing, because it sat outside for such a long time. All the seals are all corroded and dry rotted, and it just leaks like crazy. The seals are stupid expensive to buy. The door seal, just for one piece on the A-pillar, is like $300. Insane. Every single one of these cars, the dash is messed up in one way or another. The vinyl that they use on the top shrinks over time, and it causes all these weird little cracks and things to pop out of place. It's very rare for you to find one of these dashes that are not messed up like that. So it is a fairly complex fix too. I'm not gonna fix that. You have to take the entire dash apart, and that is a giant headache. The brake light is on for some reason. I'm assuming it's the ABS pump. Pretty sure the ABS pump doesn't work because I've slammed on the brake in this car, and it did not do anything for me on the interstate. So something is clunking on the driver's side front suspension. Not sure what it is. This car used some sort of active suspension, so it will stiffen up the faster you drive. Because there is something going on with one of them, I had to adjust it in the computer to be at as soft as possible, because when something goes wrong, it goes to its stiffest setup and it is extremely uncomfortable to drive. It is jarring. It'll rip your freaking teeth right out of your mouth. You know, the paint looks pretty terrible in this car. The previous owners, prior to my dad, just didn't take care of it, you know? So it really needs a whole new paint job. Sometimes this car wants to start, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not sure why. There is a resistor in the key that talks to the ECU or BCM or whatever the heck is in this car. So if the resistor is wrong, then it will not let you turn the car on. Great feature for theft, but sucks for me. So I had to bypass it with a resistor, and even the resistor itself sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. So I'm actually taking a gamble driving this thing today. But the fix is to bypass that system completely. It's like 40 bucks. I'll probably just do it. That way I don't get stranded somewhere. Hopefully not today. The passenger window motor is fried, so it doesn't work anymore. The top itself has 3 motors. The second you put the top to the top of the windshield, there are 2 motors that pull it down. One of them doesn't work. And then the pull down motor in the back doesn't work either. So there's like a good 2-inch gap. So when it rains, I have to make sure at least I'm on some sort of hill, so least amount of water can get in this thing as possible. It's rough, man. But with all of these flaws, I still kind of like it. So, what are my future plans for this car? To be honest, I'm not really sure yet. I really would like to lower it. Lowering springs don't really exist for this car. You know, a lot of purists for this car think that it's perfect as is from the factory, which is great for them. That's not my style. Sorry if you own an Allante and a die-hard Allante owner think that is blasphemous, but this is my car. So I really want to lower it. I also want to get some wheels for it. Rotiform makes this aerodisc thing that I think would be freaking rad on this car. Put the disc on it, drop it to the ground. I think it'd be really cool. I also think that a cyberpunk theme, because of how retro this car is, would be kind of cool as well. Nothing too crazy. Maybe some LED lights in the back, something on the front. And then I would love to get a hardtop for this thing. The problem is the hardtops that exist for this car are like this, and I don't think this car looks good with the top up, regardless of the soft top or hard top. Where it stops because of the trunk, I just don't like it, but when the top's down, the car looks rad. So I think it would be really cool if I could make a top that goes all the way to the back of the car and kind of goes straight down, and maybe put one of those louver things, whatever those things are called, in the back. Kind of make it like, I don't know, the back of a DeLorean, right? Because the back of this thing kind of looks like it a little bit, to an extent, right? The lines and whatever. So I think it'd be really cool to do that, because I don't use the trunk for any reason on here. Plus, it can be removable anyways. So I think that'd be really cool. I think the car would look a lot better if it had some sort of hatchback situation in the back. But, you know, that requires a lot of money. It needs a couple things before I can do all of that, right? Including the drop and the wheels and stuff like that. I want to get the top working again. It worked before this video. The back pull down motor was the first thing to go out, and then just this morning the motor that pulls into the windshield frame on the driver's side went out. So I'd like to fix that. I'd like to fix the window on the other side. There's a busted headlight. The headlight works, but there's a crack in it. I like to replace that. I just want to replace a couple things here and there. Probably should fix the brakes on this thing because that brake light kind of scares me. Just a couple things before I start doing other modifications to this car. The next video of this thing is me fixing a couple odds ends here and there. Hopefully that means that the top will be working. But, you know, it is winter, so luckily today it's 50 degrees, but by the time I get this thing fixed, it might be pretty cold. So I still want to go for a drive with the top down. I've done it a few times. It's really fun. So hope you guys stay tuned for that, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.